What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of 1984 the podcast. Today's topic, we'll talk about being a product of your environment. You hear that all the time, man. Anytime people, you know, fall by the wayside or they get into some trouble or they do something just outlandish, the first thing they say is, well, it's because I'm a product of my environment. It's because where I was grew up. It's because where I was raised. That's not something I think people should be able to fall back on. Because the thing is, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be products of our environment. Because there's three things I feel that we can do when we're in an environment that's not ideal. Because one of the first things you can do is change the way you move through that environment and let that environment change with you. You know, if you're in an environment, like I said, that's not idea and there's a lot of different things going on in that environment that are negative, you can be a positive light. You can go out and do subtle things in a positive manner that can slowly reflect on other people in that environment with you, and maybe they will change as well. You know, just little things you could do in the community, just picking up garbage, uh, having small little block parties or writing letters to the city council or to the mayor about what's going on in the neighborhood, trying to get old abandoned houses torn down, or trying to get more law enforcement presence there. That's an issue. Or helping the elderly, fix their houses, mow their yards, things like that. Just little small subtle things you can do to help improve your environment. And when you do those, the environment can mold with you. Or one of the second things you can do is use that environment as positive motivation. If there's again negative things going on in the environment, if you're an artist, you can paint about those things. You can use them as your muse. If you're a musician, you can put that in your lyrics. That can be the basis of your song. Or if you're an architect, you want to be an architect, or you want to be a businessman, whatever it is you want to be, you can use the negative energy in your environment to fuel your passion and help you grow. You don't have to always fall in the same path as what's going on. You can look at that and go, you know what, I don't want to be like that. That's my motivation to work harder at my craft and become better at what I want to do. And the third thing you can do is leave. Now, this is one of the hardest ones, because you have to understand, when you're in a certain environment, you might be born into that environment. And when you're a kid, you can't really move freely like you want to. You have to depend on parents and things like that to get you out of that environment. But once you become an adult, you have the ability to move and leave that environment. You see situations where kids are in bad environments and the parents know, so they move them with an auntie or a cousin or somebody that's in a more stable environment, or more an environment that's better for a child to be raised in, for a child to grow. And they move them out. But not everybody has that option. Not everybody has that option. So you have to kind of endure your environment till you get to an age where you can get out. And there's plenty of ways to get out. Whether you decide to get a job, whether you decide to go to the military, whatever the situation may be, there's plenty of ways to get out. But that choice is on you. So, that's the three choices that you have, instead of constantly saying, I'm a product of my environment. Now, I'm gonna try to touch a little deeper on each one of those. Like I said, number one, you can do things in your community and change, be a positive light. One of the things you can do as an adult, be a positive light to the youth. There's nothing wrong with living a positive lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with showing the children of the neighborhood or the other adults in the neighborhood that you can be positive, that you don't have to sell drugs, you don't have to kill each other, you don't have to rob, you don't have to steal, things of that nature. You can be a positive mentor to everybody around you by just doing small things, even if it's something as simple as inviting a couple of your friends to church. If you have some friends that are falling by the wayside, they can't seem to get on the right path, and you're a spiritual person, like, hey, come to church with me. I want to introduce you to somebody. Introduce them to the minister. And if you're younger, introduce them to the youth minister. Bring the kids around. Volunteer at like a boys or girls club, and with the youth from the neighborhood, and play sports with them, play basketball with them, play football with them, just hang out with them, ride bikes with them. Just be a positive influence. Like I said, clean up your community. a lot of times you go into communities that are bad environments and it's just, it's garbage everywhere. It's, torn, dilapidated houses, abandoned homes, just the whole, yards are grown up, weeds everywhere. Just something as simple as going to one of your elderly neighbors' yards and de-weeding it for them, cutting it for them, getting rid of some of the weeds, or picking up the trash, or your own house, your house in the neighborhood. You can go out there and keep your house pretty, your yard clean, and just paint a perfect image to where at some point other people around you are going to go, man, I could do that too, man. I want to be like him, or I want to be like her, and I want to carry myself in a more positive manner. Believe it or not, you're only one person, but you can have a positive impact on a lot of people who watch you and watch you the way you move. It's not always constantly like, oh, nobody pays attention to me. I'm just one man. I can't make a change. I'm just one woman. I can't make a change. You can make a big change, especially in your community, especially if it's a community you've grown up in, because people idolize someone that grew up in a rough environment and they got out. You see it with athletes all the time, that change their environment. They lived in a rough environment, or they necessarily got dealt a bad hand, and they switched it around and they became successful. And you hear people all the time talk about, oh yeah, he grew up over here. Hey, he from this neighborhood. People look at things like that, and that actually trickles down to the youth, because the youth can see that and be like, oh man, I grew up in the same neighborhood as Michael Jordan, or I grew up in the same neighborhood as LeBron James. I can do that, or it might not even be somebody like an athlete. It could just be one of the OGs from the neighborhood that started his own trucking company, or he went out and bought a bunch of real estate and now he's independently wealthy, and they know that. Be like, oh man, yeah man, I used to live on the same block as Junior, man. I remember when Junior was hustling with everybody else, man. Now he got all this property, and now he his own boss. He got all these employees. So people notice that, people look up to that. So instead of saying I'm a product of my environment, try to make little changes in your life and be, the ideal person, or be a motivation for your environment to change. Let your environment mold around you. Let your environment change with you. Don't necessarily constantly say I'm a product of my environment. The second thing I talked about was using that environment as motivation. That one's, as your muse. That's self-explanatory, man. Use the pain as fuel. If there's something going on, in your neighborhood, like I said, if you're a rapper or an artist or whatever it may be, rappers do it all the time. They rap about their struggles. They rap about their neighborhood. They rap about the stuff they sing. You got movie directors who have seen a lot of stuff firsthand, and so they know what it's like to live like this. So they make great movies because they've experienced it. You have a lot of pastors who experience a lot of negative things, and they turn it around and they use it to speak to their congregation because they experienced it. When you talk to somebody who has experienced something that you've experienced, it makes it a lot easier for them to connect with you. You don't connect with somebody that has never been through what you've been through. I can't sit here and have a conversation with a woman about being pregnant. I have no idea what it's like to be pregnant. I can't remotely begin to talk about that. And it's the same concept. I can't sit here and talk to somebody that's been shot, because I've never been shot, or somebody that's been involved in drugs, been addicted to drugs, because I've never been addicted to drugs. Now I can sit there and I can listen to them and they can have a discussion. But as far as me trying to explain to them how to handle their addiction or how to get away from their addiction, I have no clue, because I've never dealt with it. But you do have people who have dealt with that, and they use that platform to help other people. So the same concept I said, when you're in an environment that's negative, when you're seeing all these different things around you, whether it's poverty, whether it's drugs, gang violence, abuse, whatever it is, you have to take that and turn it into a positive. That may be the key to open the door for your future success. You have to turn that around. You can't just constantly keep saying, well, this happened to me because I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of what happened. It wouldn't have happened to me if I wouldn't have been raised in this area, or if I wasn't raised in this household. You have to switch that around. You're in control of how you respond to your environment. You have to adapt and overcome sometimes. You can't always just sit back and blame your environment for whatever it is you got going on. And the third thing I talk about, which is again one of the hardest things, but it's actually one of the more important things, because a lot of people can't do this, and that's leave the environment. And when you leave the environment, see, the other two things are more mental. They're more mental things. You have to put a little physicality into it, but they're mostly mental. But leaving is physical, mental, and emotional, because a lot of people are attached to their environment. They don't want to leave. It's all their friends. It's their family. It's their comfort zone. It's everything they grew up around. It's their favorite corner store. It's their favorite park. It's their favorite corner. Everything there is their comfort zone. They know the neighborhood like the back of their hand. They know everybody on every block. They know Miss Jenkins. They know Miss Jones. They know Mr. Murphy. They know them all. Like I say, you can walk in the corner store with no beef. The guy at the corner store knows you. You go in there, y'all hang outside his store all the time. He doesn't get upset. The police officers there, they come through the neighborhood. They don't cause any problems, because you have lived there your whole life. They have patrolled it their entire career. So leaving your comfort zone, leaving that environment can be very tough for a lot of people. And I talk about rappers and hip hop, entertainers and movie stars, stuff like that, because those are the people that you see that can't tend to let go. You see them, they get out of that environment. They're out there, they're making money, they're making music, making movies, and then you see a news headline that, entertainer such and such is being arrested for a double homicide, or he's being arrested for armed robbery, or, he's being indicted for a kidnapping, and you're just like, why? You have millions. Some of them, not all of them have millions, because the music industry is not always what it's cut out to be, and neither is the sports entertainment. But if you're a superstar, you got some change, but you're looking at guys that they have a lot more money than they actually had before they left the environment they were in, and they go back. And like I said, you see it all the time because they can't let it go. One of the things I did was, when I grew up it's not necessarily a bad environment. It's a town. It has bad parts just like any other town. Bad parts, good parts, bad people, good people, just like any other town. But what I was able to understand is living in this city was that I was not growing. I was seeing the same people, interacting with the same people. There was no job market for me there. Like, I just could not grow there. And I left. I finally said, you know what? Yeah, it's my comfort zone. I have my favorite grocery store. I'm close to my parents. I'm close to my friends. I have my favorite little hangouts, but I'm not growing here. So I left. And guess what? I never went back. There's nothing there for me. I think I've been back twice to visit a relative and friends. And I've been gone for a couple of years, but there's no reason for me to go back. I don't need to go back to party there. I don't need to go there to go to a bar or a club. I have thousands of them where I'm at now. But you see that all the time. People will leave an environment, they will leave a situation, and they go back. And that's when they get into these altercations, because if you leave and you change your way of life, you start making money, you become successful, those people that stayed in that town, they're not your friends anymore. You might have one or two, but the people that you left there, the people that you used to bump elbows with, you can't trust them, because they're seeing you, come up, and they're not necessarily gonna always be happy about that. And even if it's not them, you still have the people that didn't like you before you left, and now they really don't like you. So now when they see you, the first thing they want to do is hurt you or even kill you, because they see you and they're like, oh no, we gotta, hey man, what you doing back over here, man? And people will call you a traitor and all this stuff because you leave. If you're not growing in a certain place and you leave, you'll see the people that you left behind, like, oh, you a traitor, man. Man, you don't forget where you came from, man. Oh, he out there repping that new city. He done forgot where he came from. We as human beings, we're nomadic. We don't have to stay in the same place. We actually don't have to rep anything. If I'm proud of where I live now and I support the city I live in now, I don't have to support the city that I left, because obviously the city that I left wasn't supporting me. So you don't have to. A lot of people feel the need. You see celebrities all the time. Oh, I got to put on, man. I ain't going to forget where I came from. You can. You can. You can forget where you came from. You don't have to. You don't have to show anybody any love once you leave somewhere. Like, especially if that place wasn't for you, if that place wasn't helping you grow, and that place wasn't helping you reach your full potential, you don't owe them anything. You don't have to show them any kind of love. And I knew a guy. He went on to be professional. We talk about going back and getting caught up in situations when you don't need to be there. I knew a guy. He went to the league. He was actually around my same age, and he would go back to our little small town for whatever purpose. He would show up in his Bentley, to our little small town, and go to these hole in the wall bars and clubs. For what? And every time he would go, he would get caught up. There would always be something where he would be involved in some kind of altercation. Somebody tried to mess with his car, or he get hemmed up by the police, and they running the dogs through his car looking for drugs and stuff like that, which is a problem in itself because of the stereotype of a brother with money. Hey, let's run the dogs through his car. But the thing was, he should have known that was going to happen. When you go back into a small town like where we were from, when you go back to a place like that, winning, dude is winning. Nobody wants to see that, bro. You gonna find yourself in situations like you could go anywhere in the world. You making money. You can go anywhere in the world to go have a drink. Why do you need to go all the way back to this little small hole in the wall town to have a drink, and mingle? You can go to Miami, leave the country, go to Dubai, go have a drink in a foreign bar. You don't have to drive back to where you came from, and you don't owe them people anything. You don't owe them people nothing. But again, a lot of people can't let go of that environment, and it's not always just the city or the town. It's like I said, it's a circle of people. You see a lot of these guys. They get involved in gang activity and criminal activity because they feel like they owe them something. Like, oh man, I'm ganging forever. I'm gang banging forever. I'm with this forever. Like, man, you got kids and a wife. Let that stuff go, man. You got kids and a wife and a career. Let that stuff go. Because what happens is you see a lot of these guys, their lives get ended, too soon because of the circle they decide to keep. Let those people go. There's nothing wrong with letting people go. There's nothing wrong with letting family go from that environment you grew up in, because family doesn't always have your best interests at heart, especially when you start making money. You can, I seen an interview with a couple of guys, a couple of famous cats, and they talked about how when they started making money, how they had to cut family members off, because you can't buy everybody a house. You can't buy everybody a car. You can't put everybody through college. You can't pay off everybody's debt. Juvenile said it best. I love my folks, but if I give you everything, then I'm gonna be broke. You have to think about that when you leave your environment, because when you leave that environment, and you're going to have family members from that environment that are constantly trying to pull you back and make you either get them out of the environment or help them live better in said environment. And you have to remove yourself from that element. That's why I said this one is probably one of the most important ones when you talk about being a product of your environment, because trying to let go of all that, years of emotion, years of knowing people, years of friendships, years of relationships that you have to cut them off. You have to let them go. I look back and I see guys my age, they ain't doing much of nothing. They ain't doing much of nothing because they got caught up in that environment we were in. They got caught up. It's like, to me, it's like quicksand where we were from. You're not going to just drop down immediately and, just die, but it's going to slowly just suck you down and it's going to hold you there. And you just sit there, in the movies, they make it seem like you just sink all the way down to the bottom. But the truth about quicksand is there is a point where you do reach solid ground and you don't sink no more. You're just there. You're just there. You're just sitting there. And it's hard to get out due to the physics involved of the suction of the sand and the water and everything. So it kind of holds you there. And that's what it's like being in these environments. You're slowly just sinking and you don't realize it because the years just pass. You're in your 20s, then you're fine. You're happy. Oh man, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Next thing you know, you're in your 30s and you're not going this way. You're going this way. You're going down. Then you're in your 40s. Then you're in your 50s. And next thing you know, you're right here. You're in your 60s and the quicksand is right here because you never got out of that environment. You never wanted to get out of their environment. You were just like, I'm fine. I'm just gonna sit here and just let it. I'm just gonna sit here, man. I'm comfortable. Man. I don't, people pass by, hey man, let me help you out of that. Nah, man, I'm good. Good, man. I'm good right here, man. I don't need to go nowhere. And it's, and the problem with that also is you have that crab in the bucket mentality you hear people talk about that's also involved in these environments. The crab in the bucket mentality means every time somebody tries to climb out, another crab is constantly yanking. Now, a lot of people have said, well, that's because they're all trying to climb out. But in the reality of it is the crabs don't realize that we all have to go out one at a time. I'm constantly trying to claw out, and in the process, I'm pulling the other person down. So, they're pulling the other crab down while they're trying to climb out too, so their brains are unable to comprehend the simple fact that, hey, we need to push this other crab instead of trying to claw this other crab down. So you have that same type of mentality in these environments that you grow up in these neighborhoods, in these towns, is that people don't want to see you grow because you're leaving them behind. Because they want to go too. They want to go, but they just don't know how to go, or they're afraid to go. And when they see you going, they're like, oh no, man, hey man, why you want to do that? Man, man, why you want to move there, man? Man, why you want to work there, man? Why you worried about that? The key is, once you're out, don't go back. Do not go back. I've seen people, plenty of people, go back. And I want to know why. And they get back and they're miserable, and you hear them, man, I should never came back. I should never moved back here, man. You're right, you shouldn't have. Because you were out, you were away, you left that environment. And you can't keep going back to that environment because sometimes it's not healthy for you. Most of the time it's not healthy for you. That was the whole purpose that you're leaving. And like I said, if you can cut loose and get out of your comfort zone, cut loose of that baggage, it's hard. It's hard not being able to just take a 5-minute drive to your parents' house. Or it's hard not being able to walk around the corner to your buddies or your best friend's house. You go walk around the corner, y'all sit on the porch, smoke, drink, laugh, have a good time. You got to let all that go. The house parties and meeting up everybody at the local watering hole. Like, oh man, let's go. Hey man, let's go have a couple of drinks Friday night at the spot, man. All right, man, let's go. It's only a few minutes from the house. You can walk over there. Once you let that go, it's hard, going like, man, and a lot of times it does lead to anxiety and depression when you're in a new place, vulnerability, because you're in a new place, you don't have any friends, you don't know the environment, you don't know the layout, you don't know the town, you don't know the bars, you don't know the spots, you don't know which store. It's funny because I can relate to that. Like I said, I moved to a new city on a whim, just on a whim, got a new job and just chunked them. And it was hilarious because I didn't know what stores were better than others. I have a certain place I like to go. I like to shop at Kroger. That's my place. That's my spot. So I found one that was close to my house, but it was a little sketchy. I'm a little pretentious. I'm a little pretentious, this spot was a little sketchy, Usually when I go into a store and I see an armed guard at a grocery store, I'm a little nervous, because I'm like, wait a minute, bro, if you strapped, I need to be strapped, obviously. Uh, but this was the closest store to my house. I was not familiar with the area. I just knew, hey, this is a Kroger. I need to go to the store. This is where I get all my stuff from. So I went to that Kroger for probably a year and a half, if not two. And I happened to be riding one day and was looking for something to eat. And my GPS led me down this back road I had never been down before. Led me to this new area that was being developed. This area hadn't even been fully developed yet. It's just just bunch of emptiness. And lo and behold, there's a big, shiny, brand new Kroger sitting right there. Only about 5 more minutes or so up the road from where I was going. So, oh, would you look at that? So now I don't go to the Kroger where I feel like I need an armed guard. I go to this one where it's all comfortable and it's real quiet, real quaint, tucked off in the back. It's going there, no problem. This is brand spanking new, and that's the key. That's the thing, like you said, about being in a new environment, because back where I was from, there was only 2 Krogers in the whole town, and I knew which one to go to. I knew the one I liked. There was one I liked that was right by the house, and there was the other one that was on the other end of town, and I went over there every now and then just because I was riding. I was like, well, I'm going to ride today and get groceries. It's a pretty day. I'm going to ride, let the windows down. So I'm going to go over here to get groceries. I only had 2 options. I moved to a huge city where I got hundreds of options. So I had to, get out of that comfort zone, because my whole thing was I was used to being back at home and going to the store that was right by me because it was the only one. So when I moved here, my first thing I wanted to do was go to the store that was closest to me, because that's what I had been doing pretty much my whole, life, my whole adult life, rather, being on my own. And when you're able to cut loose from your environment, you start realizing that you don't have to, act the same way you used to act. That's one of the biggest things when I say about emotionally removing yourself, is you do not have to act the same way. You don't have to talk the same way. You don't have to respond to people the same way. Because one of the things I realized when I moved from the town I was at was how open-minded people are where I'm at now. Back where I'm from, you had to, if you wore anything that remotely wasn't, a white t-shirt and blue jeans, or a designer shirt and blue jeans, or, a pair of Jordans, you were ridiculed. You were talked about. You couldn't walk around in a purple shirt and white pants and purple shoes with purple hairlights in your hair, or dyed your beard blonde, or you couldn't do that because somebody had something to say, because it was just such a small-minded town. Somebody had something to say. When you come to a big city, you walk around here damn near naked. Don't nobody care. You can walk around here with nipple piercings that hang down to your ankles. Nobody cares. Your hair can be the color of a rainbow. You can have dragon teeth in your mouth. You can have your tongue split like a snake. Nobody cares, because it's not a small-minded place. It's too much going on here for people to be focused on you. So, when you're in these smaller places, these smaller environments, people don't have anything else better to do. They have a lot of time on their hands, so they can focus on you. And then you find yourself with that same mind state. You find yourself, when you go to a new environment, you start acting the same way you acted in that other environment. You start picking out little things about people. Oh, man, look what he wearing. Man, what he wearing that for? Man, what's she wearing that for? Man, what they doing? Why they doing this? You have to, and over time, you adapt to the new place, and that stuff that you just sit there, you see something, you're like, hey, what's up, man? You're not worried about what they're wearing. You're not worried about their lifestyle. So that's the thing. You have to get out of that small town mentality, man. Again, stop being a product of your environment. Make your environment a product of you. Leave that environment, stretch your legs, see what else is out there, man. You'll be a better place. Like I said, stop blaming your environment for your actions. Because like I said, just like I just said, when you see somebody and you immediately want to criticize them, and oh man, that's how, man, that's how we used to do it. We don't do that. You have to leave that behind, man. You have to move on and move forward, and quit depending on or using your environment that you grew up in as a scapegoat. I mean, you were just a horrible person. Like I said, you commit a crime. Oh man, he was just, he had no choice, man. He grew up around all that. No, no. You see guys get caught up in domestic abuse situations. Like guys, like they want to put their hands on their wives or their girlfriends, and the first thing somebody said, well, man, his dad used to do that when he was a kid. Okay, well, guess what? He's a grown ass man. Now, when he was a kid, that's one thing. He a teenager, yeah, you got teenage angst, you're trying to work all this stuff out. But once you become an adult, you have access to support groups, you have access to therapy. You know that something is wrong. You don't have to do what your daddy did. You don't have to say, well, my daddy did this. My daddy used to do that, so I'm going to do it. No, that's unacceptable, because again, like I said, you do not have to be a product of your environment. You do not have to do and act the way that the situation around you went on. That's the same thing when you look at racism. And I'm talking racism on all accords, not just, white versus black. I'm talking black versus white, black versus Mexican, white versus Mexican, whatever the situation may be. If you were brought up in a household where there was prejudice and racism, you do not have to continue that. That's your choice. You do not have to continue that. You can actually change that environment. You can actually, yes, your ancestors, your older, your granddads and your great granddads and your dads, your moms, they might be hard headed, but you can still plant the seed to change your whole, that generational curse. You can change that whole lineage there. You can be the one to say, hey, look, this is wrong. We are not going to judge people or hate people because of the color of their skin. I'm not going to raise my children this way. I'm not going to come around you guys if you continue to act this way. I still love you, but I'm not coming around you. I am not going to let you dictate the way I treat people. See, that right there is removing yourself from a negative environment. But also in the same process, you're planting, like I said, you're planting a seed. You're showing them, listen, this is the way I am, and I'm telling you why you're wrong. So you are actually giving them the option to listen to you and follow you and change along with you. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but you can slowly teach them. You can, slowly show them, like, look, this is why we don't hate these people. This is why you shouldn't judge somebody by this. You can teach them. You can actually teach people, and you can actually convert people and make people see the error of their ways, but you have to actually take that first step and quit letting your environment control you. You have to control your environment. And I said, to me, product of my environment is just a scapegoat. It's an excuse for when people make a mistake. Oh, well, it was the way I was brought up. It was the way I raised. I didn't know no better. You know better. You know better. You could have known better. You could have did better. So just keep that in mind when you're in your circles with your friends. You're in these small towns. You're in these cliques. You're in jobs, wherever you are. If you're in a negative environment, don't just sit there and let the negativity consume you. Take the options or take the chance to leave, or take that leap of faith to tell people that we're doing this wrong. This is wrong. We're not going to continue to do this, or make little small changes around yourself to try and change the culture of the environment you're in. Just little subtle things you can do, just little statements you can make. You can, whether it be reposting a motivational quote in the break room, or, introducing somebody to, your pastor, or introducing somebody to one of the spiritual leaders that you follow, or letting them read a sermon that touched you, or showing them an article that you read that inspired you, or introducing them to a way that somebody else is doing something, like, hey, this is the way this company does it, and look how well it works. Maybe we can try this here. So you have to be the change. You have to lead the charge if you're going to change your environment. And it's like I said, if you can't change it and it's not molding, it's not molding along with you, it's not improving, then you have to find the options and the courage to leave that environment. Get away from it, get out of it. It's not only for your health, it's also for your future, because all that negativity that you keep balled up in that environment, that passes down to your children, it passes on to your relatives, it passes on to your friends. So if you can't mold that environment, or you can't use that environment to motivate you, get out of that environment. Stop saying I'm a product of my environment. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Like I said, I want to keep uploading these videos, keep uploading season 2 of the 1984 podcast for you guys. Remember to like and subscribe and show your support. You can go to anchor.com. That's basically my base site for this podcast. You can show your support. Every little bit helps, so I can keep delivering you guys great content. Hey, till next time, thanks for watching.